Okay, so pointers and array. So what we are expecting it as array, that we need to take care about the things that when you are going to point to a, or when you are going to point, you are going to use with the pointer to an array, we are not supposed to use with this ampersand sign, because ultimately what we are saying it as, when you are going to make the use of array, so array it will be having with the address or the memory location associated for it, and pointer also it will be pointing to a memory location. So just when you are going to use with the array, we need to use directly with this variable, pointer variable we can say it as, and name of the array which you are including. Instead of that, if I'm using it as, okay, so what is expected here, this p variable p, it should be a pointer variable. Initially it should be declared as a pointer variable, then only it can retrieve or it can get with the actual value associated with it. Now how we are going to traverse or pointer, how we are going to traverse it in the program. So for that we are seeing with this simple program where we are going to have with the one pointer declaration and elements which are now here. What is expected, or why I'm not showing with the programs with the terminal, because already we are including with the output. Just we need to see the flow in which we are going to get these elements. Okay, so what we are supposed to have, we are going to have the first declaration of the pointer variable, then array declaration, and when you are going to have the assigning values for this. So what is expected, when you are going to get with the values need to be retrieved, we need to assign this value. So while assigning the values of this array to a pointer variable, so what we have mentioned, integer star p, it will be holding the address location for this. And while displaying that, we are going to display that not only with the address location but actual value. Okay, so here instead of as like a regular array, when you are going to print the array, what you are taking the some temporary variable, and with that it will be retrieve or it will be traverse in the array. Okay, so what is the difference between this incrementing this pointer and incrementing this pointer, right? So here we are incrementing value of I, which is traversing through this array, and incrementing the pointer, that means what, when you are going to, as here we have assigned, if you are not assigned values of this array to pointer, it will be not required to increment this pointer value. Just if you will increment with the value of I, it will be okay. Okay, so what is expected when you are going to increment the pointer, so what does it mean, that we have initialized the pointer, and from that point or from that location it will be start continuing, right? So as I told earlier, or we are seeing with this earlier also, that is we are going to increment values of I, which is running from 0 to 6, right? So where it will retrieve elements from the array, and when you are going to put these values with the help of pointer, so pointer p, it will be having its memory location, which will be incremented with one by one elements, right? So these all elements which will be included as a part of array. So this p, so it will be holding incrementing the value, means what, it is having some address location which can be associated. Let's say here if I'm having with the value associated address location as 100, for this let's say 101. Okay, so we are giving some imaginary address location. So these are the address location for pointer variable. So this program, it will be simple, or you are able to see the output, but try to get the things with the concept of memory allocation for this. Okay, and it will be continued, right? So what is expected? when we are going to retrieve these elements one by one, we are going to take the address location. So here we are going to display these values as cout star p, not the array elements. Getting it? So that's why I'm just repeating this part. Why? Because uh, most of the times you are getting confused that why we are incrementing the value of I as it is from the array, and still we are incrementing the, or this is the main concept where you are supposed to see with the pointer or traversal of the pointer in array. Okay, because generally you are seeing with the array and pointer separately, but here we are using the combination of these two terms in a one program. Okay, so this it will be output that you are able to supposed to get from this. Now, so the term that we are discussing yesterday with the session we have ended with, that is how to increment the pointer address and pointer value. So when we are accessing the values of the variable through a pointer, we just need to increment or decrement the value of these variables. Okay, though we may need to move the pointer to a next value or next position, so we have to actually working with these locations. Okay, so pointer means what? That is a location. So pointer moves to a next location with this, either you can include it as this form, that is a first get the value and then increment, or increment and then get the value. So ultimately, what is the limit for this? What will be a limit for this elements? Limit, it will be the array elements. Whatever the size of the array, either you are taken it with a predefined size or dynamic size, whatever that you are taken, that it will be a size of it. Okay, and depending on that, it will be holding the values. Okay, so there are different ways for, or way with which you can represent this. So these are the three possible way through which we can use this increment pointer. Okay, so most of the times we'll be given with the small programs, and these small programs, it will be having with the term which will be incrementing the pointer values. So both, so these all combinations it will be allowed, or it will be having with the same meaning. Okay, so pointer will be moved to next position, whatever the data type that you are declaring the pointer variable, it will be continuous. Okay, so as here in this example, we are taken integer variable, integer pointer variable. So it will be retrieving with that. How this retrieval it will be done? So the name of an array which we are going to include it, which will be pointing to the first element. So as we have here, we are taking it in the example, that is, it will be memory location with which we are going to take these values. So what is the difference between the array and the pointer? So as you can observe this, a of 0, a of 1, a of 2, a of 3 and 4. So it will be continued. So these values, it will be retrieved from these elements. So a of 0, it will be holding with the first value. The name of an array, which will be a, as we are referring it as a pointer, which will be a related with the first element, or it will be including as a part of your first element, that is a of 0, right? So what is expected when we are going to including these values? So these values, it will be retrieved as per the memory location. So a of 0 is what is the array with the 0th element, then first element second, but for that associated value, it will be a memory location. So what does it mean? That and we are going to retrieve this a of 0. So it will be having some value, let's say here as we are having it as a 1, but let's say for that we are going to have the address location, it is let's say as a 100. So we are taking it as an imaginary location for this 1, let's say as a 2, and some values which is associated as 101. So it can be continued, and these we are pointing it with the help of okay. So we'll try to get this difference as we are saying it as we have to mention that as in the form of a of 0, and we have to mention the value which will be either it will be a actual value or we are going to get the address of it. Okay, so from this small program, if it is able to get with this term, that is integer a of 5, that is the size of an array which will be holding the 5 elements starting from 0. So default location for this is a of 0, address of a of 0, and if I'm going to mention that as in the form of value, so what this a it will be holding, so ampersand. So here if you can observe this, so ampersand a of 0, it will be holding the address location, and if you have mentioned that as in the form of pointer, so we are going to take it as the address location of this value. Okay, so for both it will be showing with the same address location, or the result that you are able to get as in the form of address location only, not with the, as we have mentioned this as a in the form of array. Getting it? So here if I'm mentioning this without ampersand, right, without ampersand, that is just while printing, if I'll make the change that if I'll be displaying this value as without ampersand sign, it will display with the actual value whatever. Now here we are not mentioning any value for this, so it will take a of 0th value, right? So what I'm saying, just try to get the thing. So for the same example, so if I include it as cout for this value, and for this before this cout, as we are taking it with the a of 5 with some values if it is associated for this. Okay, so if it will be lines, okay, so we are not included as a part of this program, but I'm showing it as what difference it will be having. So if I are displaying it as ampersand a of 0, it will display with the address location of this. Then a, it will be also with the same address location, and it will display with the a of 0. So then here it will display with the actual value as 1, output as in the form of 1, right? So try to get this difference, and you are going to display with these values. Either we are going to take with the values which will be associated with this term, okay, address location, or the, so this we are referring it as array name or the pointer which will be pointing. Now here we are not mentioned that variable as a pointer, but that it will take a definitely default as the memory location or address location for this. Now, we'll see with a few more combinations of this, that is referencing, dereferencing an array name. We are going to have the alternative part for this. So what you can try for this, we are going to see these small examples. Try to use with the combination, try to make some changes, what output you are able to get. Because these are the different combinations with which we can display these values or elements. Okay. Now let's look at this with this example where we will be having the elements as say of 0 to 4, 5 elements, which is having some values for this. Now let's say where we are going to have the a of 0th element, okay, and star a. So this we are going to refer it as pointer variable with star a. So what does it mean that? So previously, as I told earlier, that is a of 0 means what? Actual value, but ampersand a of 0 means address location. Similarly, we can call this as star a also, that is a pointer. So star a means what it will be pointing? It will be retrieving what is the reference of this line or this star a. That what does it mean? That whatever it is present at that address location, print it to output window. That means what? Let's say here, if I am saying it as for this star a, it is having the address location as 100, print the contents of this address location. I try to get the difference. That is, here it will be having as the value as here you are taken it as 2, right? So if I have printed it as just a, so what it will do? It will print the address location as out. Okay. And if we are saying it as a of 0, that means what? A of 0, it will be having the value as 2 for this, right? So that's why it is having the output as, so these are the cout statement. So what we are able to see, get it in the output window. So that is the differentiating feature. So what is the output for this? As 2 and 2, right? So that means what? Both you can allow, you can point like this, or both are having the same meaning. Now, if we suppose use with the array as a pointer or array name as a pointer, so it's an example which we have seen previously. So there we're taking with these values. So both the accessing that element to a first element, let's say here, can be referred as like this, where a of 0 it will be holding with the value and star p. So the what we are doing initially, we are using it as star a, but here we are referring it as star p. But star p, it is having what? It is holding the value of a. So what ultimately it is having? It is a star a only. Okay. So what does it mean? That for the same memory location, that is a of 0, we are having two different pointers, right? So this bracket or this two, so this p, it will be, as you can observe, that it is already pointer variable and it is holding the address of some other location which is from array element, right? So that's why we have shown it with the help of some different notation. No doubt it is pointing to a same location for this a of 0, right? So these are the different permutations or different way with which we can represent this array element. Okay. So don't try to get confused that a of 0 means what? It is 22. It is not. It is a 2 space 2. That is a two different values. Now, same with this multiple array with the pointer. So both a and p are pointing to a same array, and we need to print that also. Okay. But what difference it is having? Just try to get the thing here. That is a of 0. That means what? It is holding the value as 2. Then p, again we are pointing. Now here, if you can observe that, what one more difference that we are taking it as, In previous example, what we are doing, we are pointing this P, that is initialization. So this, in another term, what we can say it as, it is initialization. Initialization of what? Pointer variable. So what does it mean that? So this P, it is holding, or pointer P, it is holding the value of, or we have initialized this value as A of 0. But in the next example, so what we are having, we are pointing this to A of 1. That is A of 1 means what? That is the next address location, right? Now while printing it, now as we have done the initialization for this pointer, okay, to first location, that is array second location. Okay, so try to get the thing here, don't get confused. Initialization of pointer and initialization of array. Array initialization we cannot decide. Array initialization, it will be start default from A of 0. But pointer variable that you have taken, it can be initialized from the location which you have given it in the program. If you're not given default, it will be take with the first location from the array and it will be continuous. So that's why while printing it, so A of 0 and P of -1 we have to take, because why? As we have done initialization of this pointer P to array's second location, that is A of 1. Right, so this, it will be a starting from 0th location, or this, it will be a starting location for that pointer variable, and what it will be showing it for P of 0, so it will be going with the value as 4. So what output it will be showing? It is showing with the same output but with different address location as we have done for initialization. So what does it mean that? So your P value, address location for P, what it will be having, we'll see that already. I think we are having with this in the next part we are going to see. So what values it will be having for this? It is like this. So this is the traversal of pointer in array, right? So now you are getting the idea of how we are going to traverse. So this is the traversal of an array, right? A of 0, A of 1, A of 2, A of 3, A of 4. Okay, and it will continue. So this is the pointer traversal as we have done. So why this is starting it from P at 4th location? Because we have done the initialization for this in the program, right? Try to get this from the figure, what values it will be holding, what values it will be retrieving with referencing with this term. Okay, so this is the important part where you're supposed to get initialization. So this part it will be having with the initialization as we have done it for ampersand A of 1 for pointer, right? We are not holding with the actual values. Okay, now we'll move towards one more term that is called as a null pointer. If you remember, we have discussed that we can use the pointer with a null value, or it is allowed. So null is a special value that indicates an empty pointer. So that pointer is not having, or that pointer variable, whatever you are going to use, is not having any values associated with it. Okay, if you try to access this null pointer, you will get an error. So it is just as a part of what we can say it as including in the program. We cannot retrieve these values. Okay, we can have the null pointer, but cannot retrieve these values. So take an example like this: integer star p, and value for this as a 0. So it will print. So value for this pointer variable, we are mentioning it to 0, so it will not have any issue. Ampersand p, it will be a print the address of p. There is no issue for this. But if we try to print the value of this null pointer, as it will be not holding any values for this, so it will be gives you error for this. Getting it? So what does it mean? That we can have a null pointer, or we can point this to a 0, but when you are going to display these values, or when you have to retrieve this null value, it will be not showing this value, or it will be showing the error. Now, what is your task? That you have to try it, and you have to tell me what kind of error it will be showing. Okay, and just what you need to do, you need to take a simple program where, or you can write it down that also. Just try to see what error it will be showing, because I'm going to ask that in the next session. Okay, because remember, so just what you need to do, you need to include it as in the part of program integer star p. You can start it void or int, whatever it might be, because here you are not supposed to use it, go for any uh, barriers for this, but try to display this values and what output it will be showing, or what error it will be showing. Just you need to give it as the answer for the next session. Okay, I'm not saying it as you need to try it right now, because we need to go for the further session. Okay, so now these are all about, we have discussed about the pointers to array, pointers to object we are seeing. Okay, but now we are moving it little bit to a next point, that is called as a function pointer. So this second unit, if you can observe that it will be having a most of the things which will be including few points from the third unit also. So it will be having a few points from this, as it is associated with the pointer. So we'll try to cover this part in the second unit only. So till now I think we have got with the is array and pointers. We will take with the review after this introductory part. Okay, function pointer. So what does it mean? That it is having the syntax like this. To take an example, we are having one user defined function that is called as fun. It is having with some value which we will pass for this. Now how to go for this? Now here we have included with the two parts for this, so which is having with the same meaning. Okay, it's just as a part of including it into a two lines. So if you can remember that for memory allocation we have done with this. Okay, malloc, alloc, for the syntax we have included. We are not using the actual memory allocation for this, but we are using it as a pointer variable. So both these lines are, we can write it in a one line, or two separate lines are also allowed. Okay, so what is the meaning of this? It is void star pointer variable, which is of type integer, and which will be holding the address of this function. Up till now we have seen for pointer to variable, pointer to array, pointer to object. Now we are moving it for function, how we can point this function. So what does it mean? That so this function value, whatever we are including, it will be having with this as the memory location. That means what? Whatever the pointer which we are going to take here as fun underscore ptr, which is of integer type. Now here we can mention the size for this as integer, but function is as it will be passing with the value as integer, so that's why we can take it as integer value. Okay, so which will be having with the, or which will pass with the one value star function pointer 10. So here normally what we are having it in the regular function call, what line it will be having, so it can have with the values like this if I'm not using the pointer variable, right? This function pointer, this all term it will be referring with the function underscore ptr. Okay, so that's why when you are going to pass this value, we are passing it through pointer function, function pointer. Okay, so the output for this it will be 10, value as a value of a is a 10, right? So it is less than 1 minute. If it is disconnected, please rejoin.